Okay, Agitorium nostrum in omni Domini. Feci celum et terram. All right, so Bishop Father 4 was consecrated a bishop on this Thursday by Bishop Williamson. It was quite an incredible event. So here it's pretty cold out and you're getting some sunshine in Toronto, but down there's lizards and tropical plants and I don't even know the name of the red fruit that just grows down near the monastery grounds. All the tropical flowers and palm trees and ferns. So it's in that setting that the monastery is in. And the monastery is very Spartan. Their oven is actually a wood burnt stove made out of brick with a simple 3 or 4 sinks. And very simple, the place. And it's there that the consecrations took place. And Bishop 4, he took for his motto, Ipsa Conteret. Anybody know what that means? Ipsa Conteret. Anybody have a guess?
She will crush?
Yes. She shall crush. Those are the words from Genesis chapter 3 verse 15, where God prophesies the role of the Virgin Mary, that she shall crush the head of the serpent. So Bishop 4 took that as his great motto, and it's very fitting because we're really down to the wire, meaning the Catholic faith, at least those publicly professing and defending it. God bless Bishop Burke for opposing abortion and sodomites, but if he accepts Vatican II and the new Mass, he's accepting going along with abortion and sodomites. They don't see that, these modernist bishops, because the principles of Vatican II lead logically to abortion and sodomites. That's exactly what it leads to. So really, when you get down to it right now, there's only 2 bishops in the world who are publicly professing the faith. 2.5, because Bishop Tissier, he did come out responding to the consecrations, and his response was one of gratitude. And he'll probably get hanged for that. He didn't condemn it. So I'm sure he's going to be put on the oven by Bishop Follet for that one. So it's ipsa conteret. It plays into our times because the worse things get, and they are getting worse, that means the Virgin Mary's role is getting closer, where she's going to have a victory, something far greater than Our Lady of Guadalupe, where she will crush the head of the devil and have another great victory, and it will be clear that it's her victory and no one else's. So it's really great. Bishop Ford took this motto. Secondly, Bishop Ford, it's very important you realize this, that he's in the line of Archbishop Lefebvre. Archbishop Lefebvre chose, firstly, 4 bishops in 1988. The first choice was Bishop Williamson. Second choice, Father 4. Father 4 was his second choice. And Bishop 4, he declined out of humility and suggested Father Gallaretta. So Bishop Lefebvre chose Bishop Gallaretta. And Bishop Tissier de Mallory, of course, was chosen also, because he's great on theology and combating the modernism, at least in writing and preaching. And then the 3 of them were chosen first. Bishop 4 backed out of humility. And the Swiss people came. It was first going to be 3 bishops. And the Swiss people came and said, we've done so much for your seminary. You're here in Switzerland. Why don't you choose a bishop from Switzerland? And that's where in the last few moments Bishop Follet was chosen, the youngest. Bishop Follet has always been the bursar. And open brackets, who among the apostles was also the bursar?
Cheers.
All right, I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm just asking the question. But pray for Bishop Fillet. It's very dangerous what he's doing. So those 4 bishops were consecrated, but it's very important to see that Father Four was chosen by Archbishop Lefebvre. And here we are now, how many years later, 2015, and Bishop Williamson in a state that he never dreamt he'd be in, alone, standing alone to defend Catholic tradition, while the others want to go with a false agreement with modernists, and having compromised on doctrine, on the new Mass, on Vatican II, on the new code, and so forth. So Father Four was chosen by the Archbishop. It's very important for us to realize that continuity. It's a great blessing. So at the consecration, you'll be able to see the Mass in full force. It'll be out one of these days soon on internet. The whole ceremony. There was a full professional camera filming everything, and Bishop Four being anointed, being crowned with the head, and receiving the mitre. And the mitre symbolizes the horns of light shining off of Moses' head, commanding and preaching with authority. And so the excommunications from Rome, we say, well, big deal. What's an excommunication from a pope who's praising communists, Freemasons, sodomites, destroying the Catholic Church? What does that mean? He should be excommunicating all his rotten bishops and professors in the seminaries. But the ones who get excommunicated are those who hold on to the faith. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So let him excommunicate, let him throw all the lightning bolts he wants. We stand on the shoulders of Christ the King and all the popes of tradition. And all the popes of tradition condemn Pope Francis, Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict, Pope John the 23rd, Pope Paul VI, who are not blessed, they are not saints, and even John the 23rd's body is not really incorrupt, unlike true saints. His body is there rotting. It's so filled with formaldehyde. The mortician who took care of his body said, I put extra supercharged formaldehyde in his body. So some year that's going to fade off, and they're going to really have to bury him fast because he's going to stink. Like Pope Paul VI. When he died, the body was so already rotting when it was laying in state and being visited by all the visitors. The Swiss guards were passing out. They had to cover his body with plexiglass. It stunk so bad. This is Blessed Paul VI. So these phony canonizations and beatifications, they speak for themselves. Plus, they broke all the rules doing canonizations and beatifications. Some of them, like Padre Pio and the martyrs of England, who were canonized by Pope Paul VI. Some saints under Pope John Paul II that he did, like St. Maximilian Kolbe. Some of them are obvious saints and martyrs. They're just obvious saints because their whole life was holy and they died martyrs. But anyway, so here we are. We're on a new phase of the war, and it's a great encouragement that Bishop Four will eventually be traveling through. He is older. He doesn't have perfect health, so he's going to have to take it a little slower. But pray for him, and may I suggest that you pray for Bishop Williamson, of course, and write him. Thank Bishop Williamson for this heroic act. And that's a great crown in Bishop Williamson's crown in heaven, to continue the Catholic doctrine and the fight for the faith, opposing modernism and the Vatican II. And about Bishop Fillet and all the priests going with him, it's frightening that this could happen. But we're living through it. We're living through Vatican IIb. And this is good for you youngsters because 50 years ago, it's your parents and grandparents that had to fight for the faith. Now it's your turn. Welcome to the war. And this one is a little more camouflaged because it's revolution with traditional vestments, traditional incense, and Latin. So it's a little more camouflaged, but it's still the same rottenness underneath. Vatican II, New Mass, and all those errors. So anyway, it was a great dinner afterwards. All the priests sat down and they really had a wonderful feast. The sisters were there, many people from all over. Families drove in from Uruguay. The Uruguay couple, they were begging for priests to come. And we were happy to tell them, we do have priests coming. We have 9 studying in Kentucky, one brother, and down the road, hopefully, priests to come. And this summer, Bishop Williamson will ordain Dr. Sunil, who's a medical doctor from India, and a very good doctor. He has saved many lives and helped many people in India. He sacrificed all his education, all the money put into it to become a priest. He's practicing now the dry mass. That is a deacon who goes through the mass, all the movements to practice. And he'll be ordained this summer, most likely in India. But we're trying to get him ordained in the U.S. if possible. But we'll see. So there is future, there is hope. And that great motto, ipsa contrat, what a motto. And what timely motto for our time. Because the devil, the Freemasons and the Jews and these enemies of Christ, they're boasting. They've got their noses high. They're riding high. They think they have succeeded. They're boasting of their conquest over Christ and Christendom. They're about ready to bury the crucifix now and done with Catholicism once and for all. They've got a pope who's promoting Freemasonic doctrine. These last 4 or 5 popes. What more could the enemies of Christ ask for? And yet, the devil knows he's working really hard because he knows the last few minutes are ticking away. And he knows that prophecy. So it's like Mike Tyson stepping into a ring with little Alexandria, is it? Annie, that's right, little Annie. Imagine little Annie standing up to Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali, and she just slaps him, turns him down, and crushes his head with her foot. That's the role of the Virgin Mary. This little tender, sweet girl, immaculate, virgin, no sin, never stained or under the claws of the devil. Her sweet, tender little feet are just going to crush the brains and blood out of the head of the serpent. That's her role, and it's a great role. So she's our mother, and we're waiting for that day because it's coming around the corner. The enemies think they've won, but they're in for a big surprise. So it's a great grace that you can persevere now and be with the resistance. And we have to be humble and pray because we have to all realize any of us could fall. And look at all the poor priests who are slipping away with this. So pray for them, good priests who are just going along, and they shouldn't be. We should have learned our lesson, not to go with the mainstream, not to go with superiors under obedience when they disobey Catholic tradition and their own founder. Bishop Fillet is disobedient to all the popes and Bishop Lefebvre, his founder, and they think they can do better. And they're saying Rome has changed. And Benedict XVI was great. And you know what has to be publicly condemned is Summorum Pontificum. Let it be publicly known that that document is straight out of hell. Because they love that document because they say it frees the Latin Mass. It doesn't free the Latin Mass. You know what that document says? The priest who says any Latin Mass, extraordinary form, has to accept what? He has to accept the Novus Ordo Mass. And he has to put the Catholic Mass, the true sacrifice, Christ, on an equal level with the new Mass. Christ with Barabbas. Sorry. That document, Summorum Pontificum, let it be condemned. And it will be someday by some pope. It was another slippery-tongued piece to deceive the Society of St. Pius X. And they fell for it. They fell for it. It's incredible. All right, I don't want to go too long. I know it's already late. But I want to congratulate you folks for persevering. And Right Bishop Williamson, thank him. He did a real heroic act. And he might still do another consecration in France.
I just want to see, wasn't he going to do another one?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. We'll see. But as long as the enemies haven't shot him, not that I wish that, but that would be quite a crown to be a martyr on top of all this. But Bishop Williamson, what a blessing. So congratulate him and thank him. We're left orphans, you know. We turn to our Pope, give us bread, and we get scorpions. Give us doctrine, and we get rocks.
Do we still continue to go to the society, to the Mass?
Society buys the 10 Masses? Well, objectively, no. Why? Because they are really compromised on doctrine now. They're really officially, even though most of the priests, many of them don't agree, they don't like it, they want to do something, but they're maybe too fearful or under pressure. But as a system, as a whole, the Society of St. Vincent has compromised on doctrine. And the proof is 6 conditions, the doctrinal declaration of April 15, 2012.
Do you think the priests know about the consecration within the society? Because they're not really
do they know? They all got this communique from Menzing denouncing it on the very same day.
Oh, really?
Oh, they all got it. So pray for some of them. It might be an eye-opener to realize, hey, there really is a war here. There really are 2 religions at war in our Society of St. Pius X. And we claim to continue the Society of St. Pius X. We're not some new organization. We are the work of Archbishop Lefebvre continue. We stand on that. We don't want to change. The Archbishop set up a great structure. He set up a great organization. It's not the Catholic Church, it's not the Thy Kingdom Come, but it is an oasis of the faith. And it's proved that it worked up until 2012. And now that they've sided a slide on doctrine and compromise, the vocations are diminishing, the parishes and missions are going down, and they're not coming to the resistance. They're going to the Ecclesia Dei Masses. They're going to motu proprio Novus Ordo Masses. And 2 priests of the society, do you know this? 2 priests, one in India, a French priest, and one in France, packed up, left the priories in shorts and a t-shirt saying, hey, if we're going to Rome, what are we waiting for? They were priors, and they left to the Novus Ordo. And many people are doing the same. Well, the Bishop Filet wants to go with Rome. What are we waiting for? It's easier to go to a cathedral mass with the priest saying the Latin mass with a beautiful paid choir, half of them are Protestants, and sandwiched between 2 Novus Ordo masses. It's easy, and they lose their faith because they don't hear any more condemnations of Vatican II and condemnations of the new mass, condemnations of the scandals of this Pope and the modernist bishops. And if you're not warned about the wolves, you become food for the wolves. If you don't fight the wolves, you're food for it. So, when was it? I just flew in from Brazil today. Had Mass in Toronto, came down here. It was a 10-hour flight. But yesterday, we went on a hike with a number of the boys there. And this little boy, Mateus, he lives at the monastery at Santa Cruz. And he's like 12, but he's a feisty little guy. And he was watching, they were wondering why so many chickens and eggs were missing. And so this boy went out and he found the fox. And he set a trap, but the fox outsmarted him and went in another way. So he and another friend went out with their gun and they killed the fox. And he brought it back to all the monks, showing the fox his trophy. And the fox that was eating the chickens and the eggs. So the little Mateus, protected the chickens. And that's kind of where we're at now. The chickens are the traditional Catholics that are left. The foxes are the modernist Rome. And Bishop Williamson pulled a fast one. He consecrated Bishop 4 and maybe another one to come. And it's going to make the enemies of Christ pretty upset. But that's what we're here for. So to hold high the Christ the King. Yes?
Did they say they were thinking of opening another seminary in France or something?
Yes, Bishop 4 and Father Piver. Father Piver was at the consecrations also in Brazil. And one of the priests, Father Père Emmanuel, right?
That I don't know.
Père Emmanuel, Father Emmanuel from one of the priests in Avrier, the Dominican monks. They were there. So yes, they're possibly going to start a seminary where the seminarians will have classes in Avrier with the monks, but live apart. So they're not fully in the monastic setting, they're not disturbing the monastic setting, but they live apart. Kind of like what was early days in Freiburg. Archbishop Lefebvre had them in the seminary life, but they do their classes at the university. So instead of but those universities in Freiburg were going modernist already. So that's why Bishop Lefebvre was forced to have the seminary. But in the United States, it's a 10-year formation in Avrier for their monks. But we're in an emergency situation. 10 years is too long. We've got souls begging for the Mass, dying, crying out for, give us water to drink. So the seminary is very important. So there will be one in France. The U.S. has already kicked off. And Father Chazal has one seminary in the Philippines, and he's building a bamboo seminary. So guaranteed to withstand any monsoons. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I found a video online of Bishop Williamson. I think it was a sermon, and I think it was in Spanish or something.
Yes, it was in Spanish.
Is there going to be a translation?
Oh, no doubt.
Okay.
Oh, no doubt. Yes. Yes.
Bishop Williamson, when he came to St. Catharines that time.
Yes.
And then since then, everybody was wondering, what his mindset was, because you couldn't quite understand why he was so one way.
Right.
And now I was wondering, because he's now consecrated, did he tell any of you, I've always had this leaning, or did this just come to me like a bolt of lightning all of a sudden, or, how did he decide, how long has he decided he was going to do this? Nobody knows.
I don't know. I can't answer that, but I'm just grateful he did it.
Yeah.
I can say this, though. Bishop Four, the Americans don't know him because he's always been in South America. But he comes from a family that, as I told you before, they were persecuted by the communists in Algeria. They had to flee for their life. They were going to be massacred with cold machetes and cold blood. So his family ended up in South America. And he's been working there all these years, over 30 years with the society down there. Everything is due to him and his work. He's just, well, you'll meet him, I hope. He reminds me very much of the spirit of the Archbishop. Strong as an ox, tough as nails, but gentle with people, very joyful, very peaceful. You can see it in the pictures. He's the stuff of a bishop. He was made for this. He was made for this. You just know it. And he came out after the consecration ceremony. He came out in his purple as a bishop, and everyone flocked to receive his blessing and kiss his ring. And it's just you could just almost visibly see the downpouring of grace on the ceremony on that whole day at the monastery. And all these good people who came, many sacrifices to be there. It was just something to see. So I know you all, I wish you could have all been there, but you're in the trenches and you're in the fight. So hopefully he'll be through, And Bishop Williamson, he's not retiring either, This I think will strengthen him, Bishop Williamson. Put yourself in his shoes. It gets lonely up on top, and the wind gets heavy, and he's got the devils attacking him, he's got Rome crushing him, he's got the Judeo-Masons, he's got everybody against him. So when he said maybe some blunders here or there, or say some inaccuracies here or there, who of us could do better, seriously. So I just thank God he did it. For him it's going to be no doubt a channel of much grace. And the old roaring Becket from England might still be heard again. He preached for the monks on the feast of March 21st. Whose feast day is that? March 21st. A big first-class feast at a Benedictine monastery. St. Benedict. So that was, of course, a big day, and Bishop Williamson did the Mass, preached, and then they had a big meal with all the priests and brothers and monks. It was big fish served with the head, eyeballs, even teeth on these fish from Brazil, with tails and fins, and sliced up. That was the meal. With fruits right out of their backyards. Yes.
You say Bishop Tizzy put out a statement?
I'm sorry?
Did you say Bishop Tizzy the Mallory put out a statement?
He didn't put out a statement. I just know it was a response that he made
Okay.
to Dom Thomas Aquinas, who told us that Bishop Tissier responded, but it wasn't negative at all. It was actually expressing gratitude.
So was it a personal correspondence?
It was.
Public?
No, that wasn't public. We're kind of spilling the beans here, but that's okay, because Bishop Tissier, he's got to see now there's a line drawn,
Right.
and it'll be a miracle if he can just step forward to defend the society that he loves so much. He really loves the SSPX, that's why but we love the SSPX too, but we love the truth more, and if the leader is crashing it, we got to stand with the truth.
Is there a chance he'll come over?
Bishop Tissier?
Yeah.
Keep praying. You know, keep praying. I'm sure he's not far. You know, it's one thing to say; it's another to do, and it's a special grace. You can help him with your prayers and letters too. Write them, and say, "Look, you weren't consecrated a bishop to be, compromising the faith with Bishop Philip."
They won't intercept their letters.
Good question. I know one priest told his sister, "Don't write me, don't email me, don't call me, because everything's monitored." Yeah.
So when it comes to things being monitored, no doubt the SSPX is watching these videos and keeping a check on.
Oh, they do better than we. In my letter, my second letter or third, which they messed it up, so I don't know which one. In one of my letters of monition, they had, "You said that sermon on this date in this place." And they had about 15 places and 15 different sermons. I can't even remember all that. And they had it pegged. And Father Pfeiffer, too, they had the same thing, a whole list. So they're watching. But they're our brothers, and I just hope they'll stand strong.
Does
So-
does Bishop Forrest speak English?
He does well. Yes, he does. He thinks it's terrible, but we spoke with him about 2 hours, Father Pfeiffer and I, in a conversation in the green grass under this paradise weather in Brazil, and with monkeys and trees and tropical birds and pine cones like this, lizards running around, and flowers, tropical flowers everywhere, and just magnificent, beautiful place. You know, South America, open brackets, if it wasn't Catholic and it was all Protestant, it would be the world power of the world. The crops, the weather, the industry, everything is there to be a world power. But the Judeo-Masons didn't want South America world power. Why? It's so Catholic. They had to destroy the faith first. But the place is just a paradise. But anyway, Bishop Forrest speaks good English, and he'll get better. And he knows, like we discussed, and I told him, your life from now on is a living crucifixion, there's no doubt. But it's for the love of Christ and the church. So, and you little guys, you're in the war. You are in the war, you young ones. And what an honor, You carry on the faith. And you little ones, or younger ones, might be the ones to see the Antichrist. And maybe we will too, because time is going shorter. Things are getting shorter. Time is shortened. The days are shortened, as our Lord said. And the Antichrist is going to invent new and old tortures. So pray to have a strong faith. You know? So, yes.
Father, do you have any comments on the life and prophecies of Marie-Julie Jahedi?
Yes, you can find a lot of it on Tradcat Knight. He puts out a lot in her pictures. All I can say is her prophecies seem very true, you know. Also, Mother Mary Aiello, she's very good. She describes the red flag going over the dome of St. Peter's. You know, it's already the Masonic flag. That's maybe what she meant, because it's there now in ideas. In the 180 years ago, the Freemason says, our dream is not to have a Masonic Pope, necessarily, but a Pope who will promote Masonic ideas, so that we will win, our revolution will march under the banner of the Petrine Keys and the tiara and cope. So they've got their dream. Pope Francis, I mean, they're just partying, they're toasting, and they think they've won. They've got the Pope they wanted. And this Pope is just... You just have no words. Everyone just shakes their heads. Just put the adjective, put the dictionary of adjectives aside. So just pray for the poor soul. Anyway, so these are exciting days, and I really think we're on, you know, we're going to get punished. We're going to get scourged by God's chastisement. We are. But on the other side, Our Lady's victory is on the way. And I think Bishop Four, with him, is going to be like another part 2 of Archbishop Lefebvre. Because he's a builder. His history proves it. He's a builder for seminaries, priories, missions, and he loves the sheep. He loves souls. He has a shepherd's heart. He really does. And what's great is that he's been through the blisters, and he's been through the war.
And he's willing to do it again.
Right. So he understands Father Pfeiffer very well, because Father Pfeiffer, he's a builder, he's a mover, and he's a shaker. He's called the burly priest. But Father Pfeiffer, we all have our faults, and mine are endless as well. But Father Pfeiffer, working with him, he is very generous. He will give his life for any lamb. He really loves souls. If there's a soul crying he can't get a priest and they're dying, he'll go. He'll walk if he has to. And he has the vision of Archbishop Lefebvre. Plus, he was raised by 2 old priests when he was growing up. At your age, Sean and Chris, they were around 2 old warriors, Father Hannafin and Father Urban Snyder. And he remembers the day little Timmy came running in and said, Father Hannafin, who was a feisty Irishman, he said Father Hannafin was talking with a whole bunch, a handful of novice order priests, telling them, you got to get back to tradition, say the Latin Mass, don't worry about your insurance and your comfortable priories, get over here and keep the faith. And Timmy comes running in and says, Father, Pope Paul VI died. And Father Hannafin, just automatic reaction, thank God. And then he said, oh, we better pray for him. So they said a prayer for his soul. But, so that's, the 2 Pfeiffers grew up around these old warrior priests. And they were hilarious, they were crabby, they were fighters, they were just priests who kept the faith. What a great blessing for them, So anyway, these are great days to be alive and to keep the faith. So keep going and help our youngsters also. And the poor youngsters, I can hear their stomachs growling. So any other last question before we go? Pray for the Dominican nuns. I think they are foolish foolishly going along with this whole new direction. These girls know better, but they make terrible parish priests, but they make good teachers of girls. But I think and I hope they'll wake up. Certainly if they follow along with Bishop Fillet in this compromise of the faith, and they love Father Pfluger and that whole scene, I'm sure there'll be at least some handful of them that will separate and stay in the line of Catholic tradition. So if you know any of these nuns, try to get through to them and say, look, you can't go along with this. You know.
Father, do they have any resistance nuns?
There is a group of Dominicans, not Fanjot, but Brignol, I think. They came with the resistance. The Carmelites in Germany, of course. And
Yeah, what happened to them? The Carmelites in Germany?
Didn't they leave?
Didn't they
they might.
Came
I
City
think they went
contest.
City contest
Yeah.
with that might have happened, yes. But I'm not clear. It's only by rumor, so maybe it's just a rumor. And then, of course, the sisters with Dom Thomas Aquinas, some great nuns, and one of them is an American girl, and then the two sisters from Campo Grande. One is an she's Brazilian but dark, and the other one is a registered nurse, and they have converted a Buddhist doctor. When I was there, they had me drive around, do sick calls and anointings, and they prepare the people for death. They're kind of nursing, teaching nuns, which is what we want to start in Kentucky. Nuns that nurse, to have nursing experience, and hopefully down the road midwife experience, so they can deliver babies without all the nonsense of the medical field and doctors telling you can terminate this abortion. And then teaching catechism as well. And there's one great thing about Americans, probably Canadians too. You know, priests, all right, hi Father, bye Father. But nuns, Americans just love nuns. They'll obey nuns. Just nuns have this tremendous effect. And I think it goes back to the Civil War, because the nuns were out on the battlefield. 2 soldiers in Galveston, Texas were lying on the field wounded, and one of them said, hey, what are those 2 ladies coming out here? And the other one said, he was Catholic, he said, those are the sisters. They're going to get shot. Tell them to get out of the way. He said, no, they don't fear the bullets. God protects them. And they were walking right in the battlefield, taking care of the sick and dragging them off to the hospital. The nuns. And in Gettysburg, St. Elizabeth Seton, her nuns, went up to Gettysburg with horses and carts, and many carts, to help drag off the wounded and bury the dead and take care of the sick. And a lot of Confederate soldiers died, converted, because of the nuns. And there's a famous one with Father John Bannon. The nun was there many months taking care of the sick Protestant, and he finally said, I want to be Catholic. So she brought the priest, Father John Bannon, and he was it's Irish guy who was a Confederate chaplain. And when he was asked by a Union general soldier, can you, if you have to, can you bury some of my Union soldiers that are Catholic? And Father John Bannon said, General, I would proudly and gladly bury all the Union soldiers. But anyway, this good priest, he went to the sick bed of the dying man, and he asked this man, do you believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth? And this soldier would say, sister, do you believe that? Yes, I believe it. Okay, I believe it too. Do you believe in Jesus Christ, that he was true God and true man, and he was born of the Virgin Mary, suffered on the cross, and died for our redemption? Sister, do you believe that? Oh, yes, I do. All right, I believe it too. So they went through the whole profession of faith, everything through the sister. So he was finally baptized. Sister, is this okay? Yes, God wants this. And he died Catholic, thanks to the sister. So the sisters had a tremendous influence in the U.S., and Americans just love the nuns. They just do. And when you got good nuns who are happy, joyful to serve Christ, who have the faith, that's just gold. That's just gold. And nuns are powerful. They are Christ's brides, and we need contemplative nuns, absolutely. We need more contemplative nuns, but we also need active nuns, the Marthas. And that's what Father Pfeiffer and I hope to see, God willing, in Kentucky as well, somewhere down the road. Because where we are, there were so many nuns and seminaries and priests and monks, Trappists in that area. And I'll close with this. Father Urban Snyder, the old Trappist, take it or leave it. But he said someday this land where we are in Kentucky, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, will be a place of pilgrimage someday. So, well, leave it at that. Okay, I know it's getting late.